Welcome to our panel discussion today. We are on Saturday, the first day or the first dates of the month of April 2023. So the year is moving very quickly. This is Iman Yohani Paul from here at Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. We are around 1 in the morning. For those who are in the East US, I definitely believe that you are at 6 p.m. Thank you so much for joining us. As I told you, my name is Imani Yohani Power, and today we are gonna have a special guest from South Carolina, if I'm not mistaken, or North Carolina, but from Georgia. But I'm also with my friend Mr. Eugene Tafford. He's on the other side, but I think I have other people as well. So I'm so glad to have you guys to join our panel discussion. As I said, our panel discussion is always live at 6 p.m. in East US time, and English, French, and Spanish, and Portuguese, whereas we are live at 6 p.m. on Sunday in Kiswahili language, the African Unified Language or Lingua Franca language of Africa. So without any further ado, let me put my people inside the studio so we can have our panel going on. Brother Eugene, thank you so much for showing up. How are you doing? Yeah, touch that
Fine.
one.
Fine, brother. Can you hear me?
I hear you very well. How is going?
Yeah, man. It's always happy to see you, brother Amani Jean Paul Paulo, and always keeping an eye on what's going on over there in Ethiopia. And our hats off to you, brother. And you bring much powerful information and love to the people with our brothers and sisters connecting from Ethiopia. And always a pleasure to see you. Black Power, brother.
Thank you so much. Let me bring in my special guest, Mr. Gregg Marcel Dixon. Brother, how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. How's it going? Where are you exactly?
I'm in South Carolina.
You are in South Carolina.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you so much for joining our hard talk. So this is possibly the first and maybe not the last, but the first one that you have ever experienced. Today I'm gonna kick you with so many questions. Don't be disturbed. Just get ready, okay?
Oh, no.
So now, starting. Oh man. Okay. Yeah. So starting. Who are you?
I am a teacher by profession. I'm a 7th, 8th generation, possibly 9th generation Black American. My lineage goes back to the coast of South Carolina on my father's side and my mother's side. I'm Gullah-Geechee, and I'm running for office for South Carolina's 6th U.S. Congressional District.
Very good. So you are a teacher, eh?
Yes, that's my profession. I've recently entered the world of politics.
Okay, you teach in a primary school or secondary school or high school?
I currently tutor online now, and I tutor a variety of grade levels, but mainly middle school students. I was employed at a public school, Royal Live Oaks Academy, from kindergarten to 12th, but my director dismissed me after I ran for office. She said I was an angry Black man. Now, you can fire someone for being angry, but you can't fire them for being Black nor a man. So I'm currently suing them in federal court so I can become a paid Black man now.
So someone kick you off. That's good because you are an angry Black man. Were you really angry, or is it some stereotype?
Black Power, brother.
Well, I would say if you are a Black person in America and you have a heart of justice and you see all the injustices Black Americans face, I don't see how you cannot be angry. But what's supposed to be important with me is, am I doing my job, and am I doing my job well? And I have the last conversation that person, Karen Wicks, and I had recorded, and she even admits that I was doing my job and doing my job well. I have my kids' test scores to show that I was doing my job well. A lot of times my kids had the highest scores in the school until COVID-19 came along. So me being an angry, quote unquote, Black man was not stopping me from doing my job and doing my job well. I have student surveys showing that my students gave me 76 to 94% approval. So my students had no issues with me at all. It was she that had an issue with me. And she could not mention that I was being fired based on my record. I wasn't really being fired. More or less, she wasn't inviting me back, which is kind of the same thing in a sense. But she could not mention anything dealing with my record. She had to bring up my race and my sex. So I have evidence galore, and when the time is for me to show those things, I will do it.
Very good. So now I got quick questions. Why do you want to run for Congress? Why? What is that?
Well, one reason is the district I am in, South Carolina, 6th U.S. Congressional District. I did research, and I found out that my district is the 6th poorest district in the United States of America, and there's 435 districts, and mine is number 6 for poverty. It's a majority Black district. My people deserve better than to live in a district that's the 6th poorest out of 435 total, where their land is being stolen, where they go to the worst schools, where they have the highest eviction rate, and Black men are the most likely to be homeless, where they're getting their arms and legs chopped off because of preventive medical reasons. And they have a congressman, James Clyburn, who goes out there and he's doing all these stuff for all these other groups, Hispanics, Native Americans, illegal immigrants, LGBTQ, but he's not doing a damn thing for Black Americans who are descendants of American slaves. I was fed up. I was a teacher, and I thought I was giving back to my community by being a teacher. I was seeing my kids, whether they were kids who went to college on a scholarship or they were students who dropped out of school and were getting in trouble, they were all ending up finding the same poverty and the same lack of opportunities that their parents and grandparents and great-grandparents have fought. And I realized the issue is not the decisions they made, it's decisions that have been made against us by this government for centuries. The same way these white people want to say, well, my parents work hard for me to have a good life. Well, my parents work hard too. And my grandparents work hard too. And my great-grandparents work hard too. Matter of fact, they work the hardest. But you know what? As hard as they work, the federal American government was working against them. We can't say it's justice for all and then say for Black Americans, you get no justice. Either justice for all or justice for none. So my people need someone who's going to stand up for them, who's going to actually push for this country to finally repair the damage they've done to Black Americans. Until there is justice for Black Americans, there's not justice for any of us. And like I tell white people, anyone who's not Black American, don't think if they do it to us and they never repair, don't think one day they won't come for you.
So, do you identify yourself as African American, Black American, African? Because we have that kind of situation. What do you identify yourself? All of them or what?
I am a Black American, but I like to use the term American freedman, because freedman is the political status that Black Americans had after slavery. And they set up an agency of the government that was supposed to serve us and make sure that we had equity. Now, we know that didn't happen, obviously, but I like the term American freedman because it makes it clear America has Black people from all over the world, but American freedman makes it clear that I am a Black American of the group that this country owes a special debt to. You know, we have Jamaicans here, Haitians here, Kenyans here. We have people from all over here, but none of those Black groups are owed in the sense that America owes them for not just chattel slavery, but for Jim Crow, lynch mobs, destruction of Black Wall Streets, sharecropping, debtors prison, vagrancy laws, land theft, medical experimentation. I can go on. Those things were specifically done to Black Americans. And those things didn't stop on paper until 1965. But in some states like South Carolina, those things continue to happen up until the 1970s. So I go by Black American, but I like American freemen.
Very good. So you're American freeman.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, very good. Yes, thank you so much. So you touch already in every area. I don't even know where I'm going to ask you from, but you say there someone who is there. What is his name again? Who is in Congress?
James Clyburn.
Yeah, so how old is he?
I'm sorry.
How old is he?
I think James Clyburn is in his, let me find out. I can look it up right now. I think he's in his 80s.
80s. How long he been in office?
Yeah, James Clyburn is 82, and he's been in office for 30 years. It's going on 31 years now. Now, he's been there all this time, and the best he can do is have the 6th poorest district out of 435. And his own people, Black Americans, we own less homes now than we did during Jim Crow. Even during the days of Jim Crow, our wealth for a time period was going up. Now our wealth is going backwards. After 30 years, you can't find one policy that he's even tried to get passed to specifically address the needs of Black Americans, American freemen. So it's not that he tried and failed. He hasn't even tried to stand up for us. 31 years of him having time to do it. He's never done it. Time to go. It's been time for him to go.
I see. So now, who is your role model when it comes to African people or Black people or Black freemen? Or I see you get a new one. Who's your role model? Who is someone that you think as example?
I have several. Well, one, I'm Geechee. And the Gullah Geechee, we are the people who rebel the most against the enslavers. You know, we have Cato's Rebellion, which is why my basket name is a nickname that we Gullah Geechee people, we are anointed to have a basket name that describes. My basket name is Cato Emer. The Stono Rebellion was the largest rebellion on the mainland, the British colonies, and what will become the United States. It was done by Cato, who was believed to be brought from the Kingdom of Congo. And so Cato, and then Emer, which means king in Arabic. So that's my basket name. So of course, the Stono Rebellion, Cato, who launched the Stono Rebellion, is a role model of mine. Even though Robert Smalls, who was Gullah Geechee, who was one of the first Black people elected to U.S. Congress, and I say this to white people in my area, like he told that Congress in 1860, he said, "Look, the Negro is here to stay," and he said, "It is to your benefit that the Negro gets everything we are due." So Robert Smalls, another person I love a lot, is James Baldwin. I didn't really know a whole lot about James Baldwin when I started, but I found out that some of the sayings I was saying were things that James Baldwin said, and I didn't know it. So I love James Baldwin because he was able to articulate the injustice Black Americans face in a way that made it irrefutable and that stuck with people. Another person I love is Nina Simone. Nina Simone was unapologetically on code for her people. She didn't believe in that nonviolent stuff. She believed that if necessary, we need to be violent. By any means necessary, we need to get justice. She also, when I changed my name, my name is Gregg Marcel Dixon, but when I started using my basket name, Cato Emer, I was in part inspired by Nina Simone because she changed her name. She got the name Nina Simone, and she did it to try to hide from her mother that she was starting to sing at nightclubs because she knew if her mother found out, she would be singing devil music. So when I first started getting politically active, I started using the name Cato Emer because at the time, I didn't want my family and my friends and some of my other associates to know that I was getting involved in politics. So those will be the people who inspire me the most in my push for reparations for Black Americans.
Very good. So how long have you been involving in this kind of politics things?
Well, I launched my campaign for office in 2021, the summer of 2021. So this is new for me. but I started getting involved in activism for reparations in 2019. I actually started in 2018. I was feeling very discouraged with teaching. Like I said, I was seeing a lot of my former students, those who did everything right, end up in the same predicament as those who did everything wrong. And even those who did everything wrong, the white kids can do things that were wrong, and they will be given a second, third, fourth, fifth chance. I was seeing the black kid did one thing wrong, didn't even have to be a big thing, and their life was ruined. And I was starting to feel like, what's the point? I'm an award-winning teacher. My kids were bringing back awards from academic competitions, but that was not changing anything systemically. So I tried to make South Carolina's curriculum, I tried to make Black history mandatory. I wanted them to talk more about ancient African kingdoms, because at that time I was more of a Pan-African. I wanted them to talk more about ancient
How about
African
now?
Oh, we'll talk about that. Let me just give a little background. I wanted them to talk more about ancient African kingdoms, because white kids look at ancient Europe and see the Italian Renaissance and ancient Greece. And I'm like, okay, we need, first of all, they had ancient Egypt, but they didn't want to even show the Egyptians being black. Okay. I want to talk about, okay, ancient Nubia. Let's talk about ancient Mali. But there's another ancient African kingdom that even a lot of Africans don't know about. They don't talk about it, Anise. Dar Tichit, which is today in modern day Mali and in modern day Mauritania, is one of the oldest civilizations in the world. One of the first, if not the oldest, painting of the wheels. It still has stone buildings and homes and roads paved. And I was not hearing nothing about that from African historians, and it definitely wasn't being taught in America. I wanted my students to learn about black inventors. If we got to learn about Thomas Edison, who supposedly invented the light bulb, why are we not talking about Lewis Latimer? The difference is Lewis Latimer was the child of escaped slaves, and Lewis Latimer's light bulb for a time being burnt longer than Thomas Edison. And Lewis Latimer, not Thomas Edison, installed some of the first electrical grids in the world, bringing electricity to parts of the world. There are so many other black inventors I wanted my black students and white students and students who weren't black nor white to learn about. So I was starting to try to get the South Carolina to make that mandatory. I called the NAACP. They were of no help, and they were nasty. I called my state senator. She's no good. She's still no good. She never returned my phone call. So I tried to call James Clyburn. This is how I got involved. I called his office, and they said, oh, he'll call you back. We'll get in back in contact with you. 2 weeks passed, didn't hear from them. Called them back, same thing. We'll get back in contact with you. I waited a week, call back, we'll get in contact with you. I waited 4 days, call back, we'll get in contact with you. Now I started calling them every day. And I said, this man works for me. This is a black American man. James Clyburn is a history teacher. He should be wanting to do this for his people. And I said I was going to find him. So I said, let me try to find him on Twitter. And when I went on Twitter, I saw a video of a black American man confronting James Clyburn about how he has not done anything for the black American community and how the black American community is in a crisis. And then I saw the hashtag ADOS, A-D-O-S. I clicked on it, and then I got all this data, things that I already knew were happening. I just got numbers to go with it. And that is how I really got involved. Now, the good news is I did meet with the deputy superintendent of South Carolina schools and the public relations officer, and they did include some of the stuff I wanted them to include. They didn't include everything, but it was a win, and I did it all by myself, and I felt so proud of myself. They included black inventors. They included some of them, Lewis Latimer, Granville Woods, who was one of the first people to do wireless communication. He invented the multiplex telegraph where moving trains could communicate with each other, okay? They included people like him. They included Marie Van Britten Brown, who did the first home security system that is now in billions of buildings. They included Dar Tichit. They included ancient Nubia, which is modern day Sudan. They included those things. So I felt so proud. I was like, wow, all you got to do sometimes is speak up and you can make a difference. So that's how I kind of got started down this path.
So you start as an activist then, not a politician. You are an activist.
Yes. And, you know, that was new to me, too, because my teaching was the way of me being activist. And to answer your question about me being a Pan-African, I cannot say I'm Pan-African any longer. I can still say that I want all Black people in the world to get the justice that is due to them. And I feel that is done by Black people everywhere they are, demanding reparations from their oppressors. So, for example, if you are Nigerian, you should be demanding from Portugal to some extent, but especially Britain, you owe us reparations, because when the European colonizers, America really, and then Europe later on, Europe did not treat any continent as bad as the African continent, okay? They broke up the civilizations, tore it apart, and whatnot. But when the colonization ended, they did a Marshall Plan. America did a Marshall Plan, giving hundreds of billions of dollars, probably trillions in today's amount, to Europe to build Europe back, even though Germany and Italy fought against America. They built Japan back up, even though the Japanese were enemies of America. They pretty much built up Asia and Europe. The African continent didn't get a penny. So I want Black people and wherever they are in the world to demand what is owed to them. But the reason I kind of rescinded a blow back for being a Pan-African is, one, I found out that I was for all this Black unity and whatnot, and I visited the African. I've been to 6 African countries, and I did not see them being united over there. I saw them fighting against each other. I saw them not liking each other. So here I am thinking, we all Black, we need to come together, and they are over there fighting each other. I went to Kenya. I was in Kenya, and I loved it. But my colleague with whom I went, he was like, we got to go. I wanted to probably stay long. I was like, why? He was like, we about to have election season, and they're about to go crazy and start killing each other. I'm like, really? So then I went to Nigeria, and I'm in the Nigerian National Museum, and the lady is showing, they have a wall of all their presidents, a bunch of white guys, because, during colonization. So the lady was like, well, this was our last president, and then, they stopped colonization. I'm like, they stopped, or did y'all fight them and kind of force them? You see, I didn't like the way she was talking, almost like she misses the white man. And then she was like, well, they thought we could take care of ourselves. I said, wait a minute. What do you mean they thought y'all could take care of yourselves? Africa has civilizations long before Europe had anything. Europeans were still running around in caves with no civilization while African continent was flourishing. She was like, well, after they left, we had a war, the Biafra War, I guess how it's pronounced. She was like, so we couldn't take care of ourselves. I'm like, these people don't. And then, another story. When I went to Kenya, I went to visit the ancient city of Gedi. Gedi is an ancient city of stone in the rainforest on the Swahili coast. A Black Kenyan man. My friend asked him, because I was telling my friend, Black Kenyans built that. So my friend asked the tour guide, and if anyone thinks I'm lying, I have proof. People know not to trust me, because I don't make up stuff. He asked the Black Kenyan man, and the Black Kenyan man said, the Arabs built this. Now, I know Arabs can be Black, but usually in Kenya, when they say Arab, they talk about the white-skinned Arabs. So I said, wait, Arabs, but I said, what were the Black people doing? He was like, they were their slaves. They were just pouring them coffee and cleaning up for them. I said, are you kidding me? I said, that is not true. And we got into it. But I said, let me stop, because I'm not in my country. I'm in somebody else's country. I don't want to be rude. So then we went to visit Fort Jesus in Mombasa. And my friend Richards asked another Black Kenyan who built Gedi. And he said, the Arabs. And I went ballistic. I said, show me proof. Prove it. I said, y'all are just giving white men credit? Prove it. So my friend was like, calm down. I said, no, how about you are too damn calm? You calm enough for the both of us. I said, you got 2 Black Kenyan daughters, and you gonna let them tell your Black Kenyan daughters they didn't do anything in your own country? You gonna say and take that? And so his brother was like, y'all Americans, you Black Americans, y'all are too thin skinned. I said, no, we Black Americans don't take shit from people. We don't let white people come and tell us we ain't done nothing. Y'all in a Black country, all you Black people, and y'all giving credit to the white man for building your own stuff. So I got so mad, I went home and I wrote a paper. I did research. I sent it. I can put it in your little link if I can find it in my email. And I can send it to you. You can share it with the viewers. I wrote an article and I sent it to the Kenyan, the Kenyan Department of Museums and Archaeology. They ignored me. You don't ignore me. So I sent it to the Daily Nation, the newspaper in Kenya, one of their biggest newspapers, and they publish it. And the museum got a backlash. The backlash was so bad that the guy who's over it, he had to train all his staff about their history. And he said to me, you are absolutely right. Before the Arabs even came to the African continent, he said, first of all, the first Arabs were black. Really, the Arabs, really black people who went in the Arabian Peninsula. But he said before the white-skinned Arabs, who had then been conquered and mixed with Europeans and Asians, came to the African continent, Africans on the Swahili coast already had a civilization and trade networks throughout the world. That's why they came. So that is what caused me to say, you know what? Maybe this Pan-African thing is not for me, because I saw too many Africans not standing up for themselves. I'm going to these African countries, and they are letting, I was in Kenya again. I was at this place called Bomas, B-O-M-A-S. They were showing the different types of homes that people in the Kenyan, Tanzania region lived in. And these white people was like, I wouldn't even let my dog live in that. I said to one of them, your grandfather lives in something like that. What are you talking about? And then again, the black Kenyan people, calm down, calm down. So when I saw that, it seems like so many Africans are afraid of white people. Then I see videos of these Chinese people beating Africans in their own country with bamboo sticks. And but at the same token, though, those same black Africans are fighting people of other tribes. I'm like, if you're going to fight someone, fight the Europeans, fight the Chinese. Don't fight each other. So when I saw, and then this has always been the case, but then, of course, there's always been those Africans who think that black Americans are beneath them or somehow we owe them. After I saw all of that, I said, you know what? I can still be Pan-African in the sense that I want all of my people to get reparations, unless you are a coon. If you are a coon, I hate you and I want you to go on from here. Okay? But I said I got to fall back from that. And then I realized that I went to these African countries and these Latin countries and Caribbean countries, and a lot of the people will say to me, when they ask me where I was from, and I would say South Carolina, they will say, okay, where? And I would tell them I'm from Richmond, South Carolina. They never heard of my little town. But I would say like Beaufort, Savannah, Georgia area. They're like, oh, you one of those Gullah people. People were impressed by me. They wanted to know more about me. So I realized I always was proud of who I was, but I started realizing I need to be even more focused on my lineage getting what we're owed. So that's one of the reasons why I sort of fell back a little from being so Pan-African.
Well, I think that I think there is a problem here we have as Black people of the world. I call ourselves Black race of the world. We have even the problem to define what is Pan-African and how should we handle that. But I think you still Pan-African. You just may not be. Because there is an issue here. I think I have talked about this before, where people, when you talk about Pan-Africa, they think that all Black people have to come back to Africa. That's absolutely not true, because you guys, you invest in those countries, in Haiti, in Jamaica, in US, in Brazil, in England. So people, it's your blood, it's your ancestors' blood. Why will you leave those and just come? We don't want to here in Africa too. If you're gonna leave everything you work for and you just come to Africa, I don't think it would be even a good idea. But now, when it comes to why do we fight each other, obviously, I think there is someone is saying, I don't know who said that, but we African people, Black people, we never be united at all. Historically, we always have never been united. Even Africa itself, it never be the name of whole continents at all. So now we're trying to come together and try to unite because of problems, not because it's historically that we ever been united or been together. So, anyways, you touched on.
I put the link. I put the link for the article I wrote that was published by the Daily Nation, or I forgot what that newspaper is in Kenya, the Daily Nation or whatever it's called. I forgot. I put the link in the chat.
Yeah, I found that. I saw that already. I think it was updated in 2020. Yeah. So okay. So again, as I told you, you are not a politician. You are activist, and don't you be disappointed with the fighting going on with African people, because obviously a lot of those problems comes from miseducated or ignorance, or not really understanding why it's happening, or sometimes it's even the power from outside of Africa that make us to fight. Like Biafra, you talk about the Biafra war, it was France. After France is kicked out from Algeria, they went over to Nigeria, which was colonized by British, and they created Biafra so they can take the gas. So it's never been us fighting. Even the Kenyans, when there is election, all those in elections are possibly not Kenyans. It's just outside who are influencing them. So the fight you see, we're fighting even here in Ethiopia as well. When you track everything, you're gonna find out.
I've been to Ethiopia before.
Oh, you were in Ethiopia?
Yes, I visited I forgot the name now, the stone churches.
Oh, okay. I think it's Lalibela or
yeah, Lalibela. I've been to Lalibela. I went to I was at Addis Ababa.
George's.
I went all over. I was all over Ethiopia, and that's another example. Like Ethiopians, like they united to fight against the Italians, but now you got some of them, the Oromo and the some, I forgot the other tribe, and they can't stand each other. And I'm like, wait, I thought we all supposed to be united because we black. That's what you tell Black Americans. We all brothers and sisters. I'm like, but y'all not acting like brothers and sisters right now.
Well, I guarantee you that, I don't know if you know the gentleman, I think his name is Steve Cockley. It is one video he put out. I always repeat that Steve Cockley is talk about Africa 93. So all this is done by plan. They studied us almost 1 year and a half in 1884 to 85 before they come to divide Africa. You already mentioned that the other continents where they colonized, they did not destroy people or things like what they did to us. So it's obviously by plan. And I think that what you see is the product or the fruits of what they plan to do. So it should not shock you. And we still have to keep teaching. It's sometimes very disappointing. And sometimes you can even get assassinated or killed. But
well, you see, and that's another thing. Like when I was in Ethiopia, the president of Ethiopia, or the president or the prime minister, whichever he is, he made a comment about how Black Americans, the reason we have not progressed is because we are not like the Jews. We live in history. And I'm like, how dare him say that? The Jews got reparations. The Jews got a whole damn country, and Israel gets billions of dollars from America. Black Americans, after slavery ended, we continue to be terrorized. So you see, it was stuff like that that made me realize that, okay, we supposed to be brothers and sisters, but every time I turn around, there's some African leader who's talking badly about Black America, like the president of Nigeria, Buhari. Thank God he's gone. And he was, when they asked him about reparations, he was like, well, reparations should go to Nigerians. No, it was some of those Nigerian tribes that sold us. So I don't have anything against Africans in general, but I started to realize I have to take it on a case-by-case basis, because some of these people from African countries, they don't like Black Americans, and I'm not going to like them. But if I meet one who does like us, I'm going to like them back. Because I used to just think, okay, we're brothers and sisters, we all unite. But now I realize I can't be that way.
We cannot be united, because obviously that's what Marcus Garvey was fighting for. And that's why you know the exact history, how they destroyed him. So back to there is a question you touched that I plan to ask you about reparation. How do you think reparation should be done?
Well, I like to follow the precedent that's already been set. So reparations should be done for Black Americans in the same way it was done for these other groups. It should be done in direct cash payments to the descendants of the people who were enslaved and then emancipated by the American government. And not just because of the wrongs of slavery, as I said, but the horrors of Jim Crow, redlining, sharecropping, mass incarceration, the war on the crack epidemic and all these other atrocities. So that is how it should go. Obviously, the people who were enslaved are now dead. But people like to say, well, they're dead. Okay, they're dead, but that doesn't mean the debt went away. They should have been paid the moment they were freed. It is not my fault that you did not pay my ancestors when you should have. You still owe us. The amount has only gotten bigger. So because they are no longer around to be paid, in America, if you have a debt and you die, that debt a lot of times goes to your family members. So likewise, the debt that is owed to us goes to the descendants of those who should have been paid. So it should be paid to us, and it should be done in direct cash payments.
So you talk about to get paid cash, and as you know, the money is losing values. In fact, some banks start to corrupt, and I hope you are aware of that. So what happens if someone give you the money and then turn to become paper?
That is why I usually like to say direct monetary payments, because America is, okay, people like to say that the US dollar is losing value. Those Ukrainians right now, they're still accepting billions of American dollars. Israel right now is still accepting billions of American dollars. A lot of countries on the African continent are still accepting American dollars. So when the American dollar loses value, if that happens, then America will pay us in the currency that has value. But I can tell you, in spite of all this fear mongering about the American dollar losing value, everyone is still accepting the American dollar, including China, including Russia. So when the American dollar loses its value, then we will cross that bridge when we get to it. And America will simply pay back Americans in a currency that has value.
Okay, so you don't think they should pay you guys like land or something that is more, maybe, I don't know, it's my opinion, okay? Don't yeah, like maybe land, maybe some material that is tangible, gold or diamond. What do you think about that?
So we deserve it all. So my reparations plan calls for direct monetary payments. That's the first and foremost thing. But as you mentioned with land, one of the first things the American government made Germany do when World War II ended, my great-grandfather was a soldier in World War II. You know, one of the first things America made the Germans do? They made them give the Jews back the land they had stolen from them. So yes, my plan calls for land grants as well. My plan also calls for business grants. And you know why? Because America burnt down not just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but over 50 Black Wall Streets existed, and America destroyed them either by fire, by flooding, or the Federal Housing Authority put railroads or highways through them. So yes, it should include land grants. It should include business grants. It includes, my plan calls for a lot of different things. But the main thing with reparations is direct monetary payments. But definitely land is included. Either we get land grants, but we definitely gonna get compensation for the land that was stolen.
So pretty much my point of land is there too. Okay, I thought it was only money. So now I got another question. What do you have to say about NAACP?
They're awful. The national organization is awful. They have done nothing good for Black Americans. They're terrible, and they need to really go away. I'm not gonna lie. But because I don't think they're gonna go away anytime soon. I believe that we as Black Americans who are on code, when I say on code, I mean Black Americans who care about Black American people, who are going to do good policies for us, we need to take over the NAACP. Now, that being said, the NAACP, there are some branches who do very good work, just like Black Lives Matter. The national organization is awful, but there are little branches throughout the country who do good work. So I think they're terrible, but I think the way to fix that, because they're not going to go away anytime soon, you're always going to have these organizations and people donating to them who really are, because they know they're going to sell out. I do believe we need to take over the NAACP and make them truly work for Black Americans.
Do you think it's possible? Because according to the research I have done a little bit, the This organization was created by Du Bois, who was opposing Marcus Garvey with his idea of black race first. So it's actually not even created by white black people only. It was created also by white people. And do you think it is possible to shape it or to change it?
An organization or political office is only as good or as bad as the people who are part of the organizational office. If you get good people who are doing good things, you're going to have a good organization. You get sucky people who are doing sucky things, you have a sucky organization. And yes, W.B. Du Bois and Ida B. Wells, two black Americans who did, maybe we didn't agree with all they say, but they did fight for black American people. They both left the NAACP when they saw that some of those same white people weren't really for us and weren't really for helping us. I also do want to say, though, Marcus Garvey, I know a lot of Pan-Africans really admire him, but he did some messed up stuff too. Like he made that little messed up comment about how black Americans shouldn't expect equality on the trains because we didn't build the railroads when black Americans built most of the railroads. Okay. So I do want to make it very clear. I don't know all the details about Marcus Garvey, but I do know that he said some things too that were not pleasing to black Americans. And that's kind of what caused some people to turn against him. And that comment, when he said that we shouldn't expect equal treatment on the rail trains, that we didn't build the railroads, black Americans built the railroads. Most of the railroads were built by us. But even if we had not built the railroads, we built America. We fought for America. So we deserve equality everywhere. I don't know how to send this to you, but I have it on my screen too, where the tour guide wrote me about Getty. And
yeah, so I just put up the article. Actually, it's on Daily News, National Africa News. So yeah, that is very nice information to share. By the way, me too. I will go over this article later on. You know, I'm not informed on these things, but it's very nice article for you to share with us. I appreciate for that, and also don't be disappointed. Okay. We have long way to go. We need every hand. Brother Eugene, do you have any question for Mr. Dixon?
Wow. I mean, this brother has said and provided such a whole lot of information that the people certainly need to hear. And again, to you, brother Marcel, our hats is off to you, brother. Any support you need from us brothers and sisters who are here in South Carolina, as well as in the African diaspora, the New Africa Network. There's more than 300,000 people connected with a reach of more than 3 million all across the African diaspora. And certainly, brothers, to see brothers like you are a beacon of hope, beacon of light for the Black people who both live here and outside of the nation. We are a one united African Peoples Organization, which we are aiming for a one united Africa, period, just based on the history and the legacies that our ancestors have laid out for us. And certainly we do have a plan. And speaking of your plight for congressional leadership within the Congress of South Carolina, where do you think that your educational background could help lead South Carolinians, those who are paying tax members, the Black community? Do you see that you can take your leadership and just based on the race-based theories, objections, and arguments that are currently going on, which I'm sure you're very aware about, how to educate our people, what is to be told when it comes to the truth, but also peeling back the lies to get to the truth with a part of this reparation piece. So where do you see yourself in the leadership role that you're currently trying to move in for Congress? And with speaking of the congressional role, would you see yourself being able to become a mayor maybe a little bit quicker than it would be taking on a congressional seat? Black Power, brother, I yield the mic to you.
So thank you, first of all, for your complimentary words. And I told people when I first started, I didn't think there was ever even a remote chance of me winning. But I realized that Clyburn has always been awful. I'm not saying that because of personal opinion. His record shows he's awful. I don't care how much you want that orange you're going to eat to be an apple. It's an orange. You can't change it. Facts are facts. His district is one of the poorest places to live in America. Black Americans under his watch are going backwards in regards to wealth. And you cannot find a single bill he's written to address in his 31 years to address our economic plight and our reparations plight. Now, he has some bill he's co-sponsoring now about Black soldiers getting the GI or their descendants. And I'm a descendant of a World War II veteran.
Right. Me too, brother. Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and he has a bill for us to get some of the benefits, but that bill ain't talking cash. That bill's talking about some loan. So even then, and a white man wrote that bill. So even then, he's letting white people do the fight that he should be leading. So Clyburn is awful. I didn't think I would have a chance to win, but now things have changed. I realize that Clyburn is very weak and vulnerable. He has two things on his side. One, he's a sellout. So he has a lot of people, and no one, everybody loves a Black person when you're a sellout. You are black face. And you're supposed to say to the cameras that Black people are okay with how things are. We're just as happy as we can be. We don't want reparations. We don't want to protect our land. We don't want good schools. We don't want home ownership. We don't want Black businesses. We just want abortion. Stupid stuff like that. That's what he does. Things like that. We know it's not true. So I always said, though, my first and foremost position was to get the message out there. And I feel I've succeeded in that. I've brought this message everywhere. I've been on countless interviews, as I'm glad, appreciate y'all having me. I have confronted, really, I don't want to say confront, but I have engaged people like a presidential candidate, Marianne Williamson, who tried it with me, tried to talk about that anti-Semitic thing, and I shut that down. And I shut it down with facts. I have brought this reparations message everywhere. I've had interviews with Time Magazine. I had an interview with Rolling Stone magazine. So I'm a guy living in a small town that most people have never heard of and probably drive past if you go from the south up north or north all the way down to Florida all the time. So I brought the message to the masses. I'm going to keep doing that. So my background as an educator allows me, like my mother used to always tell me, to educate people on one, reparations are doable. Reparations will help everyone. But reparations don't go to all Black people. They only go to American freemen, Black Americans who are descendants of emancipated people or American slaves. Five, if you are a white person and you love America so much, then you should be first in line to fight for Black Americans to get reparations. And six, I shut down all the lies and myth and bad faith arguments against reparations. So that's me channeling my my background as an educator, an award-winning educator. And as far as me running for like a local office, I think about that sometimes. But the reason that I quite don't do it is because my people, we are in a crisis, and it has to be addressed federally. For example, they got reparations initiatives happening in California. Okay, this whole country owes us. So if California wants to pay money, then go ahead, California, pay money. This whole country owes us, every institution in this country. But reparations, as far as the amount that we are owed, which is a minimum of 70 trillion, a minimum. That's a minimum now. That is something only the federal government can afford. And don't tell me they can't do it. Because in the past, 5-6 years, the federal government has given the Pentagon $9.2 trillion. And the Pentagon can't even pass an audit. They have failed an audit now 6 times in a row. So,
and the GDP for the African Americans, what we generate annually, is already $3 trillion. So when you talk about 7 trillion, and so that's not a whole lot.
So, but that, to my point, imagine what we would do for this country then if we got our reparations. this country ain't never going to truly succeed until this country does right by Black Americans. Like Whoopi Goldberg said, until you do right by me, everything you even think about before this country does right by Black Americans.
Yeah, and that's where that Geechee come out at right there for sure. That's for real right there, bro. That come from a long lineage of African ancestors that have been passed down. They don't know about that too much, do they?
Right. This country ain't never going to have peace until they do justice for Black Americans. They have been oppressing us for centuries, and they think, well, it's only hurting the Blacks. Now we see all these white kids overdosing on drugs. Now we see, even though white people still own most of the wealth of America, their wealth is not growing the way it really should. And now white men, who are really the group with the most power, and by far, this is facts. These are facts. These are facts. White men are the group with the most resources and whatnot. White men are killing themselves so much that they are calling it deaths of despairs. Until this country does right by Black Americans, ain't no one in this country going to ever truly have peace.
Yeah, well, you know what, brother? We always talk about that as part of the Afro Diaspora Political Economic Think Tank organization. And I think sometimes we as Black people, we get caught up in what's happening with other groups of people and not focusing on the concept of what is needed for our Black communities. Of course, you know, after the Jim Crow movement, where segregation and all of that things were being desegregated, most of our ancestors' wealth was lost due to the fact that they integrated their economics also. Yes. But at the same time, too, the older generation, as opposed to the new breed leader African generation, they didn't have a whole lot of knowledge about what was really going on and how the American policies work as well as affect them, as they were just getting the rights to vote, if you come to think of it on that level. But we, like I say, the new breed leader African generation, first generation to see the economic strides as well as the economic strides, but educational strides as well. Much of the one thing that I believe the white community or the federal government at the time began to see the economic power that the Black community was accumulating without them during segregation. The educational level, although the books may have not been as up to par as the pass-me-downs from the white schools at that time, but certainly the educational curriculum, as well as the aptitude that the kids, how they were learning at that time period, was way above many of the white institutions here in America. And that came to be a loss for us when our ancestors wasn't able to really demand what they wanted. They just wanted the equality level to where it would allow them to go into a restaurant or a bathroom or work in certain types of establishments without being judged by the color and the content of their skins, which eliminated them from being a part of the competition levels, especially during the Industrial Revolution. So you talk about getting into unionizing and then also discussing the ability of having the auspice to vote, Black people in the United States having to acquire equal opportunity just in the voting arena. That was a very big hindrance. But for us, we consider ourselves as Black nationalists. We are a group of individuals. Like I said, it's a network of more than 300,000 Black people all across the world. We believe in the Pan-African movement of the Garveyites, but we also have taken on various other things that we feel that is necessary for the Black community to thrive politically and economically, and learning that from many of our African scholars and ancestors, such as Kwame Nkrumah and Dr. Jerry Rawlings of Ghana. And right now we have a very powerful brother in South Africa is moving the South African economic freedom fighters, Dr. Julius Malema. And this brother has been very powerful, pretty much begging for the same things that we're asking for here in the United States as a part of our reparation movement. So with the reparations movement, I know you've been working on that for quite some time now, since it's basically come into to a conversation across the, the whole world with this matter. Do you see we making progress in it so far? And I know you did recently was on stage in Washington, D.C., right down there on, I believe, Constitution Avenue, Independence or Constitution Avenue in Washington, D.C. with the reparations rally that took place in January. And December. Well, based
November.
on the what was it?
November.
That's correct. Last year. And with the enthusiasm of the people, do you see that the movement is gaining momentum? And where do you see it moving at as of this time?
The reparations movement is not new. Cali House in the 1800s was fighting for it. Our ancestors got off the plantations and they told General Sherman, we said, well, how can America repair the wrongs done to the Negro? And they said, give us the land that we have cultivated and get going. So it's not new, but this modern incarnation of the reparations movement, we've done in 3 or 4 years that should have been done centuries ago. And we've done that while being ignored by the media, while being slandered by the media, libeled by the media. And most of us who are really pushing reparations are people who don't have a whole lot. We're just everyday, ordinary people who work. A lot of us, I don't have my own family, but a lot of us have families. A lot of us are fighting the mental, physical, emotional trauma that this nation has inflicted upon us. And we've accomplished in 3 to 4 years what this nation has not done in centuries. We had the first hearing on H.R. 40. No, I don't like H.R. 40. H.R. 40 is just a damn study. What the hell you need to study? You got 400, 500 years of data on that Black Americans are old.
Right.
H.R. 40 is not lineage specific. Okay, all Black people may be old, but they're not all old by America. Americans freedmen reparations. So we don't need some vague study. Give us our damn money. But we had the first hearing on that, and that bill has been around for 30 years. They finally did the first hearing on it, even though that was just all for show. Okay, right now, the American government, it may be for nefarious reasons, but we'll see. They were asking about Black Americans how we would like to be classified. And the reason it's important for us to be delineated is so that we can have our reparations based on status. We already have the freedman status, but we need to make sure that data is aggregated for us just to help us make our case further as a separate ethnic designation.
Now, tell me this. How is that tied into the foundational Black American? There have been certain coined terms for that. I know it's been many that's come on the board. ADOS, which is the African descendants of enslaved peoples, but then you also have foundational Black America, BEA, FBA, the movement itself. Sometimes, we get people a little mixed up about those coined terms. So how do you feel that would exist into just being able to be? How would you name yourselves as a part of that reparations piece? Would you consider us as foundational Black Americans, those who have descendants that come on over on the slave ships, but also was, in the slave trade movement, there were many Africans moved around all the time. They were trading them off from the Caribbean islands, and they would come here. They would bring them directly from the coast of Africa directly here, sometimes bypassing the islands, but then also importing them in from the islands as well. Just my grandparents, one of my great grandfathers were imported from first from Cameroon to Antigua, and then from Antigua to the coast of Virginia. So how does that relate when you kind of tie into that? Who gets the reparations and who doesn't?
So just to really finish my point real quick about how the movement has grown, we have reparations initiatives all over the country. Now, a lot of them are in bad faith, but the point is they realize what they're trying to do is placate Black America by saying, okay, here's reparations, and they don't really mean to do a damn thing for us. What they mean reparations is give illegal immigrants something that should go to us. That's what they mean. But you also have reparations candidates like me who are popping up every single day. So the movement is taking off. The Black vote is down. Now, that in of itself is not necessarily a good thing, but a lot of Black voters say, you know what? Until y'all give us something that's going to specifically be for us, we tired of it. So Black voters are starting to wake up. And that's a good thing. Now, to your question.
Yeah, that's a big word right there right now, being woke. They think woke just started.
Well, and guess what? I'm taking woke back. I'm not going to let these white people shame us. So I've been taking woke back. I'm proud of it. But to answer your question, though, about, all of the movement that happened during the days of American chattel slavery. Well, one, it's important to realize that America ended the importation. It sounds so disgusting to say it, but America ended the importation of captive people in the early 1800s. Now, yes, it still happened. Matter of fact, one of the last ships that smuggled enslaved people into America was right here off the coast of Savannah, Georgia. Right? It made big news when it happened. So America was still doing it underground. But the point I'm making is most Black Americans, yes, we may have an ancestor who originally started on the African continent, but most of America's slaves eventually came from people who were born right in America. But number two, what really matters, the line of demarcation is if you were in America at the time of the end of the Civil War. That is where the claim starts. Slavery ended. We were old. We didn't get paid, and you continue to terrorize us after that. So it doesn't matter if your ancestor was in, Ghana or Senegal, and then Jamaica, and then Colombia, South America, and then they go into America. Were they in America at the time the Civil War ended and slavery was brought to an end? If they can say yes, and they were emancipated by the American government, and their descendants are still here, then they qualify.
Yeah, that's what's up. That's what's up. And that's a great analogy and analysis for that, being able to solidify that. So, yeah, well, definitely, brother, it's a pleasure to have you on. And I was thinking, man, if you decide you want to put together a town hall meeting or something like that for the state of South Carolina as a part of your congressional run, certainly reach out to us to be able to gain all kind of support from our brothers and sisters who are down and with the cause of putting our people into place to really be able to make change also. That's another thing, when you are in certain countries, whether it's from the local to the federal government level, you elect people that you can hold accountable for what they're being elected to do as a part of those congressional seats. That's what they get paid. They get paid by our tax dollars. And when they get paid with Black tax dollars, then Black people should hold those people more accountable than what they do. And I'll give this analogy. If you're the mob and you're the mafia on the street and you paying your money out to somebody, you expect a certain outcome from those folks at the end of the day. And we must hold our politicians to that level as well. They cannot just be in there just to be showboating and not really being effective leaders for the people. And as the new breed leader, African generation, this is what we are striving to achieve in our day and time. And it does not take people who are scared to speak their minds in and about issues. If you want to get the problem solved, you have to put the issue on the table, discuss it, and come up with a resolution. So Black power to you, brother. So tell the people, how can they get in touch with you with your websites or whatever type of attached connections that you have, so that we'll be able to respond back to what you're doing as your congressional seat is moving forward.
Well, one, you mentioned it. Support is important. If anyone would like to make a donation, because that's really what it takes. Unfortunately, what this system does is they try to make everything so expensive that if you are an average person who may not have some fancy degree or some fancy connections like Clyburn does, but you know your stuff and you have the right heart for the people, the way they get you, they try to make it so expensive and that you can't afford to do it. And they try to come with all these little rules that they know the average person will not have time to keep up with, so you can do something wrong and then you're automatically disqualified. It's a corrupt game. But I have like 27,000 followers now, but at the time, like a month or so, I had 21,000. And I said then, if everyone just donated $5, I mean, if you want to do more, that's great. But if everyone did a minimum of $5, 21,000 people, that would be $105,000 a month, $5 a month from each person once a month. So imagine if people did $5 or more. I will be able to do commercials billboards. I'll be able to pay people, because you got to pay people to do this type of stuff, to go out and hand out flyers. So, people can go out there and register people to vote. They can't say vote for me. You still register people to vote. So money is very important. As far as doing a town hall, that is something I can tell you right now I would be interested in doing. Mm-hmm. I can tell you it's a lot of advertisement to make that happen, because people unfortunately don't usually pay politics any attention. But those who do would come, and it takes a good bit of advertising. That is something I would definitely be interested. And I'm also on Twitter at Marcel, digit 4, Congress.com, if people really want to follow me. And my email is repairblackamerica@marcelforcongress.com.
All right. Well, Black power to you, brother. And one other thing is that with speaking about that town hall meeting, doesn't the federal government have like funding if you're running for congressional seats? If you can get like a certain amount of signatures, then they would grant you funds for your campaign as well. I believe that they have something like that in place for all people who are running for certain types of seats.
I've never heard of that, but I can look it up, because I doubt the federal government is giving anyone money for anything. They take money. Like, I have to pay all of these different fees for different times. Like, when I do reports, I have to pay my treasurer to do the report. And then sometimes we have to pay them fees. So they actually take money. Like, my campaign has to pay money to them. So I'm not saying they don't. That's just something I'm not familiar with. But if you look that up, please share it with me, because if there's money
for sure.
I will like it.
Right. Well, certainly this is something for us to have a part of our think tank sessions that we have all across the nation here. And we definitely want to get you included into the African Connection. The network itself is very broad, and we think the brothers and sisters that we can connect you up with can certainly help you towards your campaign initiative. We're doing the same thing with the campaign Back to Africa movement, and a lot of folks of our in the Black community, they don't even know that there is a African industrial revolution that is taking place right now with the manufacturing and production, and as well as infrastructure development projects, energy, building smart cities to bring into the future. Many of our brothers and sisters are not even aware of this. And so that's what we've been working towards over the last couple of years, to get our brothers and sisters acclimated. We're also tied in with former sister, Dr. Ericana Chirumbere-Kwa, who is the former ambassador of the African Union Mission that was based here in the States. Very dynamic sister. We call her Mother Africa, and she's also known as the female Marcus Garvey of our day and time. And just been putting things on the table that we need to discuss in the 21st century, Black people in the 21st century. Certainly trying to get off the balls of the white man and moving into a new era where we can begin to carve out a new destination for Black people. So understanding the issues and the concerns that affect us today is certainly important for us to put on the table as a roundtable concept. But certainly would want to work with you in putting together a possible town hall meeting for Black people who are in South Carolina, who are very concerned, that want to come to the table, and also to give you an opportunity to discuss what's necessary for our Black people, to help our Black people level up. As you said and stated, many of our Black neighborhoods have gone untouched, while many of the neighborhoods have been gentrified. Some have been long time occupation of Black people in those districts, and with the gentrification movement that's taking place all over the United States, has certainly pushed Black people out, and especially those who are disenfranchised, but may have had that little piece of property that they owned or stayed in for many years. But as they fell into the dilapidation, that also comes with whether or not the people controlling the tax board raise taxes to a point to where that the older generation is unable to keep up with that based on their incomes that they have coming in, like Social Security and things of that nature. But also where there's rising inflation, neighborhoods are not able to keep up with just the cost of living based on the wages that they earn in the towns and townships where they work and live. And with rising taxes, things of that nature has also become a big question amongst the Black community. So we feel that a town hall meeting could certainly take place here in South Carolina. South Carolina is, let me give a little bit of information about South Carolina for our brothers and sisters who are overseas that are currently watching, or people in the country dynamically and may not know. South Carolina is a state. It is located on the coastal southeastern region of the United States, and it borders North Carolina and also borders the South Atlantic Ocean. It is to the southwest and Georgia, and it is across from the Savannah River. And South Carolina is the 40th most extensive populated city. It ranks 23rd in the United States with a population of 5.124 trillion, 2 million people as of 2020. And it is a, one second here.
Can you hear us, Brother Eugene?
Yeah, give me 1 second here. I'm sorry, I just had a glitch in my software right here. It is a province of South Carolina, which was admitted to the Union May 23rd, 1788. The capital city of South Carolina is Columbia, with the largest city being Charleston, South Carolina. And one of the most urbanist cities is Greenville, South Carolina, and Columbia, South Carolina. The current governor, which is standing governor, is Henry McMaster. He's a Republican. Lieutenant Governor Pamela Yvette, with the Legislative Assembly, in the upper house of the Senate, House of Representatives, South Carolina Supreme, and has a Supreme Court. And the current senator is Lindsey Graham, who has been in office for a very long time, with combining Representative Tim Scott. It has a U.S. delegation of 6 Republicans and 1 Democrat, which currently sits in the seats. Now, Brother Marcel, you know, we've often discussed too, as a part of the Afro Diaspora Political and Economic Think Tank, do you feel that it may be time for Black brothers and sisters, families, friends, foes, to break off from the Republican Democratic parties and begin to focus on possibly forming our own parties, similar to what the South Africans are doing with the South African Economic Freedom Fighters? Do you think this may be a solution to begin to possibly gain some sorts of control of Black people's destiny here in the United States? Just hypothetically, do you think that may be something we maybe can look towards to do? Instead of trying to be Democrat or being Republican, which we both know these two political parties have been playing tennis between each every year, every 4 years when it comes to election time. But yet we are the only group of people who don't see any type of reparations for what we are being utilized for our vote, as well as our tax dollars. Do you think that might be some strategic moves that we can put on the table to give Black people an alternative? I believe the Latino community would probably fall in with that as well, because they are also African of African descent.
Yeah,
So,
well, try telling them that, because a lot of them seem to have forgotten. Okay, even the Afro Latinos, according to some of the latest data on the census, millions of them are marking themselves as white. So I'm good on a lot of these Hispanic Latinos. A lot of them come over to America, and they come over with the goal of wanting to be white. And the only time they want to mention they're Black is they pull out their Black grandmothers, is when they think that Black Americans are going to get something that we fought for. Meanwhile, during the Civil Rights Movement, a lot of Hispanic Latinos will go on the court, not to fight for Black Americans, but to fight to be called white. So I'm good on them a lot of times. But to your question, I think I'm not against us starting our own party. I think there are already parties that Black Americans have started. Like South Carolina has a party called the United Citizens Party, that is a party that was founded for Black South Carolinians, because in the 60s, some Black South Carolinians, they already realized what you just said. The Republicans and the Republicans and Democrats were both in on making sure Black Americans stayed to the bottom. Now, I will always give the Democrats the hard time because we've been voting for them for the past 60 years. We don't vote for the Republicans. The Democrats have been getting sometimes close to 90% or more of the Black vote. Our land ownership is down. Home ownership is down. Some land ownership has almost evaporated among Black Americans. Our wealth is going backwards. Our kids are killing themselves more. Our women are dying from giving birth to children. Our men are homeless. We're the highest unemployed. And we've been voting for them to be our leaders, and they've been being our levers. Okay.
Well, what I believe too, though, but once those politicians get in the office, sometimes they are limited to what they think they can do just based on the stature code.
I would believe that if they weren't getting things done for everyone else. They don't have no limitations when it's time to do things for these other groups. Ukrainians, where's the limitation stopping them from sending Ukrainians now over hundreds of billions of dollars? Where's the limitation for them fighting for all this LGBTQ stuff for them to get special protection? They managed to do that.
still black tax dollars.
Right, exactly. So you see what I'm saying? There's no limitation on them when it's time to fight for everyone else. But when it comes to Black Americans, well, you know we try, but don't want to hear it. So I think we do have Black political party. But here's what I always say to people. We need to take over whatever party, whether it's the Republicans, the Democrats, whatever party. If it's our own party, fine. The issue is if we start our own party, we're going to still run into the same issue we're running to now. We get candidates that are on cold like me, and we don't get enough support. And there are reasons for that. People may not know about us. That's usually the main reason. People don't hear us enough. They may see us and say, oh, that guy's cool. But then, people have life going on. They forget. If we have our own party and they don't get the support, what difference is it going to make? The Republicans and Democrats already have a lot of support. I've always said we need to not try and beg them. We need to replace them. So I'm a fan of us taking over both parties. But here's the thing. I don't care what party you choose to run under. I don't look at you based on party. I'm going to look at you based on policy. Policy first, party never. So I do think, us having our own parties is something I would support, but we already do. There are.
Well, Bernie Sanders did pretty good when he formed the Tea Party. So to consider maybe a, African freedom fighters party, economic freedom fighters party here in the United States certainly would not.
I don't know.
Could be very competitive.
I don't know if there's a party named that, but there are Black focused parties. Now, I don't know all of their names, but I know South Carolina has one. Okay, and I've spoken with them, and I've worked with some of their candidates. I think a few states have parties that are specifically focused on Black issues. Now, just because they say that don't mean that's really what they are, but there are parties like that. I'm not against them. I encourage us, if we feel we need to start our own party, fine, do it. If we feel we can run underneath a Republican, Democratic, Libertarian, Constitution, Green Party, Ford Party, whatever, People Party, do it. What I'm going to look at the end of the day is not what party you're under, what policies you're pushing. Because at the end of the day, you gotta have a backbone. Even if the party you're running under doesn't agree with what you're focusing on, doesn't matter. You have to do what's right, not what's easy, and not what's popular. So I thank y'all for having me, y'all. I hope we get that South Carolina town hall going. I've been trying to do things like that, but I don't want to pay money to rent a venue if no one's going to show up. And even people who are well known, like that presidential candidate, Marianne Wilson, who I just went in on because I was giving her points about reparations plan, and because I stated a fact that America has facilitated reparations to Jews who survived the Holocaust, which is true. She tried to call me anti-Semitic, and I went in on her. She didn't have a lot of.
That's a game they try to play with us.
It is, but
how can we be anti-Semitic when we're a Semitic people?
Right. Well,
you see what I'm saying? Black people are Semitic, so that's something that they try to twist on us sometimes.
Yes.
Can't be fooled by that.
She tried to play the game, and game over for her. But anyway. She did a town hall recently, and it was not a lot of people there. Now, it's grassroots, but the point I'm making is she's well known. Like, people know her. She's been on national TV and all. She has almost 3 million followers on Twitter, and still hardly no one showed up. So these town halls can happen, but people have to care first. And that's one thing our people need to work on, caring. But I'm not going to be too hard on us because we've been disappointed and lied to so many times. Our people have just sometimes given up on the system. And I'm not asking them to have faith in the system. I'm telling them, based on my action in the past, you can have faith on me. But thank y'all so much. Y'all take care, okay?
Thank you, brother. We appreciate you coming on, and we hope to have you back here in the very near future. We know you got things to do, but we'll be back in touch with you very soon to connect. One love, brother, and peace and blessings.
Thank y'all so much.
Are you guys finished? He's out already?
Yeah, I guess he had to run, bro. But yeah, man, it's been some very dynamic conversations. Yeah. Hey, brother Jerome, welcome to the program, brother. How's everything going? Your mic is on mute.
I mute him myself.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, I mute. Yeah. Go ahead, Jerome.
Okay. Yeah. Man, are you guys done already? I was working. I was driving, so I'm done. I'm on a break now.
Just left.
Yeah, guest just left a few minutes. He had some other things to get to, and today he's running from congressional seat here in South Carolina. Very dynamic brother who came on a little bit earlier to share some information with the New African Network and to provide us a little information about what's happening with the reparations movement that's taking place all across the country.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it would be on a little longer. It's only It's only 7:20 here.
Yeah. So, anyways, he has to go, but I didn't finish even my questions. I will still have so many questions to ask him, especially the idea that his country, your country, you guys is pushing homosexuality to us in Africa. So I was gonna ask him, what is he planning to do about that in case he get elected, even if he don't get elected in his idea, but he left that. Eugene, what do you think about that?
Well, I certainly think this is a very huge topic that's been moving around in the African diaspora right now. Many of the African nations even being put sanctions on because they don't necessarily agree with Western ideology when it comes to homosexuality and same-sex marriages and things of that nature. That's something we're going to have to keep our eye on. Personally, myself, I think that is a personal choice between what people do, but at the same time, too, when you look at the abomination of where it links to us on the spiritual side, coming from a culture of people where homosexuality is not a part of African culture, but taking on someone else's culture that may not be designed for us as a people, what we come up on knowledgeable wise, both in the spiritual connection of how what that exists of, what's the repercussions of that for nations, and but it's certainly a serious topic of today's time. So we just have to keep our eye out. We certainly must be conscious about what's happening with this to make sure that the situation doesn't get out of hand within the Black community itself, because it is a very touchy topic and conversation. But many of our brothers and sisters already know that is certainly a choice that is certainly not the norm within the African American structure. I'm not saying African American long, but African people culture, period. It is something that we've taken on from our oppressors, and it has become fashionable. But what happens when the fashionable side of it wear out, and there are repercussions that sometimes we have to deal with as a part of that, as being in our culture. So, that's my thoughts and opinions about that matter.
Jerome, what do you think? Because the vice president, she came to around 4 countries in Africa, your vice president, who's supposedly to be black. I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe we need to check DNA.
Yeah, a little bit closer, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
because
she came to
all
Africa.
skindred is not kindred.
Yeah, very good. Dr.
I'm
Johnson
gonna
is
leave that
often
alone
say
right
that
there.
he often say that if you are African, you have to be psychological and physically African. So I don't know, maybe one of those is not right. But so she came, and that was the only thing she pushed. There is nothing, you know. When China come to Africa, they give money. They say, "Hey, we're gonna give you this much money," and they don't bother anyone, you know. Last year, for instance, the last week, I believe they passed that they're gonna be teaching Swahili and Amharic in primary school in Russia in order to come closer to African people. Whereas your people, they are bringing almost what you can call destruction. So as you know, we black people, the reason why we're able to survive, the reason why the whole this genocide, the Holocausters, slavery, lynching, banning, incarceration, all these things you see, the reason why we did not finish like American Indians or like Aboriginal in Australia is because we are too many. And this idea of same sex, whatever, how you guys, I think you guys are adding more letters on it. Maybe one day you learn out alphabet. I don't know.
Yeah. It's gonna be the whole alphabet pretty soon.
you will follow Ethiopian alphabet because it's
Ethiopia got a lot of alphabets, huh?
so, when they finish, you're gonna start with ha hoo hoo ha ha.
Yeah, we certainly already there, that's for sure. It's already in the mix.
So you guys and as you know, African people, by the way, in as you say, culturally and religiously, because all religions start in Africa or in Black people community, we are more of spiritual people. I think I was doing some research and I found 29 countries where there is high atheists. Is that how you pronounce it? Atheists. People who don't believe there is a God or there is a creator or there is anything.
Atheists.
Atheists. Thank you so much. So,
right.
Yeah, 29 countries. None of them is in Africa. None of them at all. And you'll be shocked that even the Israel you guys will claim is listed among the top one where there is a number of atheists. So what does this help us as Black people? Because the only reason we're still here, as I said, is because we are too many of us. They kill us every day, but they can't finish us. So how is this homosexual things help us to as Black people to still exist?
Well, certainly we see it as a means of population control as well. When you have less men and women interacting with one another, embracing each other for love and comfort, but also for developing family. The family structure is based on the relationship between a man and a woman. So, we know that has certainly been in a part of the world food talk that has been playing out for many years. It's also talks about how the New World Order is supposed to be coming into play, where it controls population through all sorts of means, even artificial simulation, and also controlling population of how many people exist within a certain mile radius. And the discussion is basically upon food and land consumption, resources, finite resources, which are connected into the very discussions that when you talk about why is the LGBT community is being pushed so hard and so thoroughly. This is one aspect of it, and certainly it is again, it is something out of the norm of traditional African culture, because traditional African culture shuns this. And this is also because a lot of our Black people, too, are unaware that all the biblical texts that we study today, including the white people in many nations, is from the doctrines and scripts of our ancestors, but somehow the validity of the commandments are sometimes twisted. Whereas if a nation wants to be of a full and flourishing and thriving nation, it must abide by some biblical texts, which extends all the way back to the Egyptian scriptures in the hieroglyphs. And this is getting back to when we had discussions about the Nubian dynasty and how religion itself come into play and was passed down throughout the world itself. It starts right there in the land of Africa, and specifically Black Africans, religious people who are the first people to inhabit the earth. And this has become a major and dynamic discussion across the whole world with this takeover of the LGBT movement, putting the LGBT movement in front of human rights and violations of just Black people, period, with the being convicted from who we are as African people. Black African people has certainly been a challenge with all of these discussions, but the devil is a liar. And I come to tell you this, and we as a people who know better, as we are starting to get more awake and conscious about who we are as a people, we see ourselves moving into a future to where we can help get our civilizations back on track after being destroyed for more than 500 years. And this destruction began when the Moors started losing the war in Europe, in the Arab invasion of Africa itself, with the whitewashing of the cultural artifacts and relics that our ancestors have passed down to us, with the scriptures that we even read today, the Holy Bible and the Quran, being linked right back to the scriptures of our ancient Nubian ancestors, relating it to Ra and how Amenhotep and all of our great ancestors had passed down that knowledge for many centuries. So getting back on track, that's what it's going to take with the Black nation itself, for us wanting to have a separate nation and divide it, and being able to live in a land which we are moving towards a more Afrocentric way of life. Also getting back to the scriptures that our forefathers have left for us to be able to guide us through a righteous way of living and a life of more comfortable aspects of how we need to be and should be living. Laws that have been given and passed down has been forgotten by our African generations. And this is something that we've been dealing with since slavery and the colonization of Africa, with the breakup and the divide, where the languages have certainly drawn us away from African culture. This has been some serious discussions that we've been having, within the last 10 years. But we are resilient people, and I feel that challenges are inevitable. Life is not always a situation where we feel is comfortable and a rosy place to be living at all the time. We are human beings, and certainly as human beings, we must challenge those things that we feel that oppress the people. And when the people themselves are awake enough to find that they are having games that are being played on us, and there are certain things that we're being eliminated from just based on competition of the world. When Black people realize that we're in a league of our own, and there's no savior that's going to come to save us from the problems of the world except ourselves, but we also must move in a collective manner to safeguard and protect our rights as Black people, the things that we cherish and love, and sometimes not always in conduciveness with what other cultures do around the world. And that's my take on it. Black power.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. Because here in Africa, we do, how do you call it? Polygamy?
Polygamy.
We do
With
polygamy.
having more than one wife.
And
or a
we
spouse.
haven't imposed that to anybody, do we? Yeah,
Yeah, that's certainly been a question as well too. Yeah, that's something that the Black community really never speaks about. I know that too, and especially with the culture and means of our African brothers and sisters, that's something that's been a part of African culture as well, and especially those who come up in the Islamic way of life, being able to take on more than one wife. But and the Christianity side, and Hebrew side, Israelite side, only prohibits to one wife. And I think it's a good thing, because sometimes some people can't even handle one person that they with. So how they going to try to handle multiple people sometimes with multiple personalities? And, you know, our ladies, our African women are very strong and very vocal people. And sometimes if we have more than one woman, it can be pretty challenging.
Well, I think that even in Western too, you guys, you do same thing. That's why you have ex-girlfriend and ex-wife.
They call it side. They call it having a side piece.
Yeah, well, however you call it, but obviously
it's called a side piece.
You guys, you're doing the same thing, man. Stop lying, man.
But not all, you know, because you got men out here that are very comfortable being with one woman, and women the same way. They're comfortable being with one man, and it takes a lot to hold a family down. So when you start getting into having multiple things, you know, the more money you're going to need to survive on, and that's definitely a big question. That same thing with having kids out of wedlock. Or having kids that a man and woman is not willing to take care of. These things come with responsibility, and certainly, you know, this is talking.
Yeah. So, what do you think if we will impose that to all Americans?
As what?
Like every American have to have 3 wives.
I don't think that'd go, because that doesn't even go today.
So
yeah, it's just a part of their culture as well here in the United States. You know, it's just a part of, like I said, you know, some people can't even handle one person. How you gonna handle multiple special other ones?
Yeah, but you guys, you are ready to come to us and tell us that we have to put this same-sex stuff, whoever Q and I and R and this X and
well, I can tell you right now, it's not the Black community that's pushing that on African brothers and sisters. That's not us. That's
the vice president.
Well, like I said, she works for Babylon. She doesn't speak for the entire Black community. And that's another thing too. When you see these leaders on TV, just because they Black, doesn't mean necessarily that the majority of the Black people agree with what they do and say. It certainly is not that is not the case in the African American community. We're a group of people. We are we are free thinking people, first of all, but sometimes too, as a part of our culture, we sometimes learn not to get involved in what other people do as well. If that's their lifestyle and they choose to be that way, allow them to be that. But if you don't agree to that, and the majority of the people don't believe that, then you stick with the group that you're associated with, where there keeps down conflicts of interest. But I also agree towards that there have to be certain measures put into place. That's the same as rape and pedophilia or molestation, things of that nature. There must be laws in place to help govern what people's freak is, to keep people's freak in control. And some of those things, you have to do it by law. So my hat's off to Museveni in Uganda. I know that's a challenging situation that they had to discuss and to come up with, but to maintain some sense of where our African culture, our African ethnicity, the things that we hold very dear to ourselves, both on the mental and physical and spiritual level, those measures like that, those extreme measures sometimes must have to be put in place sometime. So Black Power.
Yeah. Yeah, so anyways, I was searching, I don't remember where I saw that, but I think I can definitely bring that back one time, how much President Hussein Obama spent promoting homosexuality in Africa. The budget is extensively so much than any other budget that he have spent on Black people. And now you got your another one. She came to us to just talk about homosexuality and same-sex and call that human rights, which is choices, is the people's choices, and also is the indication of the foreign civilization. Some people, they say that Africa never have that. No, definitely. The Egyptians, they did. Before they fall, the powerful kingdom fall, they did. The Greeks did before they fall. The Romans did. Every civilization does the indication that they are dying. They are finished.
But so, also, that was something that was kept in. That was something that was kept in the closet with people as well. I mean, if that's what you do as a part of your sensuality, it was something that people kept to themselves. And now to utilize that measure as a part of the human rights struggle, there's been no greater human rights struggle than the what was going on here in America, KKK, with African Americans over the centuries. There's no human rights violation greater than that. So to put legal measures in place to protect certain groups of people sometime without even considering what the foundation of this country consists of, those people who are part of the very fabric that this nation was made up upon, the blood, sweat, and tears that evolved out of African ancestry, to have that take place over top of what should already have been at the forefront of the table discussions. And that's what that reparation piece is coming into about. So when we speak of that, they're not going to say with reparations, is this a Black person who happens to be LGBT, or is this a Black person who happens to be someone who came in after the abolishment of slavery in 1865? They are looking at those people who were directly affected with the reparations piece, and that should be at the front of any discussion these days. When you talk about human rights and violations, we get human rights and violations happen every day right now. You got towns that Black people can't even ride through comfortably after sundown without possibly getting murdered by some racist police that maybe stop them for driving through their town, and they may not like how the car looked, or even the people that may be in it, and all of a sudden harassment comes into a representation of death for those people. So when you talk about human rights violations, that certainly is a scam that they're trying to play with the sanctions that they're putting on African nations. So I say to my African brothers and sisters in Africa, don't fall for that okie dokie stuff with that. Whatever your culture consists of, make sure you stick with what your culture is, and don't allow them to affect your way of life. Sanctions is only a word, and that's another thing that the Black community have been talking about as well. The sanctions that the American nations, United States, try to put on other nations, try to penalize other nations for some stuff that they may not necessarily believe in, and want to change the culture of the people themselves. That's a slap in the face, and especially what we've gone through over the centuries with this slavery stuff. So post-slavery and just discrimination and so forth. It's a lot to be discussed with that. Go ahead, Brother Amani. I'm just venting right now. You know how I get with that.
Yeah, so anyways, let me leave that alone. So let's finish this program today. I think I am gonna end this program, and I just want to tell people that we're gonna be live tomorrow at 6 p.m. in East Africa time. That's gonna be in Swahili most of the time, and we're gonna be talking about Russia pushing or passing Kiswahili to be included in the primary schools in Russia. So that would be the program for tomorrow. Again, I do appreciate for each one of you guys who come in. I wish I will see you on next weekend, which is Saturday. I'm not sure which special guest we're gonna have, but also don't forget to support our channel by subscribing to Swahili for Africa, but also checking on Patreon, where we are offering Swahili classes online on Canvas. Brother Eugene, do you have any last word you would like to say?
Yes, for sure. We first of all like to thank our guests who came on the program this evening to spend a little time with us. Brother Gregg, Marcel, Dixon, who is currently running for South Carolina congressional seat and office, but also a political activist here in South Carolina. He's been pushing the reparation movement. And for those of you who are interested in learning a little bit more about the reparations movement, you can go to the National African American Reparations Commission, and the actual organization was established in 2015 with putting together a think tank of how to come up with the 10-point plan, which is now a legislation that is currently on the table in the federal government to be discussed. It's known as the HR 40 movement, which has to do with reparations. And their contact number, hold 1 second here. I'm also going to read off our creed so we can have that as a part of the ending program. I thought I had a number for them. I don't see it right here. Yeah, I'll send that. I'll send that to you. But yeah, if you want to reach out for more information, just contact the National African American Reparations Commission, or you can go online at reparations.com.org and obtain a little bit more information about that. And for right now, I'd like to read off our New Africa Network Creed. This is for all of our dynamic brothers and sisters who tune in each and every week, that's a part and associated of the many groups that we are connected to as the African Connection. I am an African, regardless of where I was born, where I live, my ethnicity, my religion. Africa is my identity. God bless Africa. I am an African.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jerome and Brother Eugene. I wish you a wonderful weekend. I'll see you on next one.
Thank you, brother. We'll see you next week this time. Peace and blessings and one love.
All right.
See you next time.